Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reports. And today I have a little bit of good news. Trump's numbers are recovering, but this is not going to be a video about the Epstein investigation or lack thereof. It's actually going to be about some really crazy polling that I think follows the same theme, and that is holding our unaccountable government accountable. And this is about the CIA, John Brennan, election interference, Operation Crossfire Hurricane, and again, the FBI, the same FBI that was Joe Biden's personal Gestapo. And that's the thing about accountability. Trust me, bro, doesn't work. You can't just slap a new leader at the head of the organization and say, there, it's fixed. Ostensibly, we still have a CIA that allegedly assassinated a sitting president or at least was involved. What's been done? I get that the people that did it are all dead, but I mean, they were still able to do it. It's still the same organization, in my opinion, until, root causes and corrective actions have been identified and implemented, that we still have that very same CIA, we still have that very same FBI. And Americans voted for Trump not just because of the economy, not just because of the border invasion, but because they were sick of overreach by the oppressive uniparty kleptocracy in Washington, D.C. But here's the net approval chart, and it's back up today. Donald Trump hit a 49% approval rating today, 49% disapprove, net plus zero. Down a little bit from where he was at in the fall, which was roughly about +2, but it's not as bad as it's been. It was down at -4 2 days ago. And so it is recovering, driven primarily by GOP voters, a little bit of Democrats, and some black voters. But what has not recovered is independent approval rating, which is still down 25 points from the end of January, which is absolutely horrifying. Donald Trump picked up a lot of those voters because they were politically homeless. They were sick of voting Democrat. They were giving Republicans, a little bit of trust, hoping that they could come back into power and fix the federal government. And here's a very salient example where they are worried that that might not be happening. But let's get to the key topic here. This story came out, and quite frankly, it was kind of overshadowed by all of the Epstein stuff. But the New York Times said the administration takes steps to target two officials who investigated Trump. Man, you got to admire the framing. This is like fake news, New York Times. They investigated Trump. That's what they did. And he's targeting them. It's unclear whether moves targeting the former FBI director, James B. Comey, and the former CIA director, John Brennan, will lead to charges. Well, this is great. And I think America is going to love it because, as far as I know, the only thing that's been done to correct the FBI has been the firing of James Comey. And that happened under Trump 1. I don't know what Kash Patel's done. He says he's doing a lot of work. I don't know what Dan Bongino's done. As far as I understand, like roughly 98% or whatever of the same FBI agents that were there 6 months ago are still there. And who knows how investigations are identified, if they're done correctly, what new investigations have been launched. We don't know any of that information. That's stuff that Americans need to know to restore trust. But Paul Sperry reporting with new information on this. Exclusive secret meeting opens document floodgates on Trump Russia hoax. The floodgates holding back long buried classified documents exposing government efforts to claim Donald Trump conspired with Vladimir Putin to manipulate the 2016 US presidential election might finally be opening. Trump administration officials held an urgent meeting Sunday to discuss new information on Russiagate, which they might use to build a criminal conspiracy case against Obama and Biden administration political appointees who allegedly weaponized the government against Trump. Voters think that the government was weaponized against Trump. Two Trump administration officials told Real Clear Investigations. So this is real reporting. The documents are said to contain long classified information, including a secret 200-page congressional audit that reveals details about how an intelligence community assessment on Russia, ordered by President Obama after the 2016 election, was framed in a way that portrayed Trump as being beholden to the Kremlin. Sources told Real Clear Investigations that emails and other records tying the CIA's controversial drafting of the ICA to the FBI's discredited Crossfire Hurricane investigation targeting Trump could be released as part of an Office of Director of National Intelligence report, lots of acronyms here, as early as Thursday. That's today. The White House was briefed on the development Tuesday, the sources said. This is great, strengthening the case for conspiracy. It goes on. You should go check it out. Weaponizing Russian intelligence. This is at realclearinvestigations.com. But here's the thing. They're talking about releasing these documents. Is that enough? Let's get to the polling. Maybe we can come to a conclusion. So these are July 6th to 7th, and before the New York Times article, but there was a news hook. How likely is it that the Trump campaign colluded with the Russian government to win the 2016 election? This is kind of like just a benchmark to see how effective the Russian collusion hoax was. It was really effective. It drove Donald Trump's approval rating in his first summer down to 37%. That's as low as Biden got after Afghanistan, although Trump did claw his approval rating back up as it became very clear that this investigation was bunk. But still, 24% say very likely, 18% somewhat likely, for a combined total of 42%. 42% of America still believes the Russia collusion hoax. Pretty equal amounts of men, women, a majority of 18 to 29-year-olds. That's crazy. 56%, a majority of black voters, 58%. This had a huge impact. This has been a really tough one for Donald Trump to put in the rearview mirror. The hoax that was perpetrated on him. He really should go after these people. 60% of Democrats think it's still at least somewhat likely that Donald Trump colluded with Russia, including 38% who say very likely, although 17% of Republicans say likely, and 38% of independents. Pretty wild. The CIA recently issued a report which found that Obama administration officials, including the CIA director at the time, John Brennan, manipulated intelligence about Russia to get Trump. Now, here's the thing. This is a question about trust in the CIA. Do you agree or disagree with the findings of the new CIA report? The CIA rating is not high, just like the FBI. Remember, we had a majority of people saying the FBI was Joe Biden's personal Gestapo. 64% think that the CIA is giving political talking points to mainstream media. And so the number's low, but it's still a plurality who agree, 49%, including 33% who strongly agree. But a lot are not sure. And only 35% disagree with that, 21% strongly. And you're going to see a lot more Democrats here too. 30% of Democrats strongly disagree. A plurality, 46% disagree. But like pretty much, like that's a ton of Republicans. 75%, 53% strongly agree. And independents are not as bought into this one as they are to Epstein. 39% of independents agree, but 40%, so independents are roughly split, disagree. But here's the important question, in my opinion. We've talked about in our other videos the two-tiered system of justice. We've talked about how Americans crave fairness. It's one of the highest numbers we've ever seen. 94% think it's important that public officials are held to the same standard of accountability as other citizens. And so here's an example where we can ask, well, they did this. Should they be in jail? We have not asked this about the Epstein predators yet, the ones that NBC is trying to convince is only Epstein. He's the one that like basically assaulted hundreds of minors. It was just him, nothing to see here. Anyways, should officials who were involved in the manipulation of intelligence to get Trump be criminally prosecuted? 57% yes, 26% no. Remember, Donald Trump did not get 50% of the electorate. It was less than that, you know, when you add up the third parties and stuff. And yet 57% say yes, 26% say no, like a 31-point margin. That's really massive. Only 26% say they shouldn't be thrown into jail. 18 to 29-year-olds, only 31%. That's the highest among age. Really, no race signal at all. Black voters and white voters say yes, equal amounts. Even a plurality of Democrats. Yeah. John Brennan, sure. If he did it, if he manipulated intelligence, he should be criminally prosecuted. 46% of Democrats, yes. to only 32% say no. I'm going to tweet that. That's a really big number. 73% of Republicans, yes, 20 no. Independents overwhelmingly, 51% yes, 26% no. But here's the thing. These are the independents that are underwater, almost 20 points with Donald Trump right now on job approval rating. And yet they also want these kind of people criminally prosecuted. In my opinion, that's a pretty big hint that there aren't enough rests, especially for political free thinkers and people who find themselves politically homeless. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? What the intelligence community did to Donald Trump is a bigger scandal than Watergate. And a majority, 53%, agree with that statement, and only 38% disagree, only 27% strongly. And the people who were like alive for Watergate, the boomers, 56% agree with that statement and 39% disagree. And Democrats, no, they don't agree. Only 39% of them, but 50% disagree, although only 39% strongly disagree. 73% of Republicans agree. And the independents really high, 49% to only 42%. We have this issue. We have the intelligence community, deep state actors working together to try to prevent Trump from being in the White House. And apparently they got caught. We have documents. They're going to come out. But voters want them arrested. Voters want to see justice. Disclosures and transparency are not justice. They're not justice for the disgusting actors in our intel agencies that did this. And they are not justice for the rich and powerful predators who went down to Epstein Island. And so these issues are not going away because fixing this stuff, draining the swamp, was a major campaign promise. And it was a very popular campaign promise as well. And I can tell you that Republicans are very used to getting a rug pull. They're pretty used to putting Republicans in power and seeing things like not getting an Obamacare repeal. I mean, this goes back forever. Look back at Bush 1 and the read my lips, no new taxes. They are on political thin ice right now, especially with the Democrat +1, Democrat +2 generic ballot, which pretty much says, historically speaking, that the Democrats are going to pick up control of the House of Representatives. And so now you have major campaign promises in jeopardy. It's great these documents are coming out. Maybe they are. We haven't seen them yet. It's great these documents are coming out. Let's arrest these people. At least investigate them, at least drag them in front of Congress. Why wasn't Brennan in front of Congress in February? Could have happened. There was enough to go on. Is Ghislaine Maxwell, is she coming to Congress too? Let's get hot. Do not leave the investigative work up to the American people, because that's what document releases do. They want to see real police work. We spend a lot of money for the FBI, the CIA. Like, let's get it done for the voters. If you've learned something, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Follow us on X at Rasmussen_poll and myself at Honest Pollster. You can watch our videos on YouTube at Rasmussen_poll and Rasmussen_rewind, and on Rumble at Rasmussen Reports. We stream multiple times a week on Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, and Getter. Thanks for watching.